Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, firstly, I would like to thank to Allah that has given us opportunity so this time we can be here and do our activity. And I also want to thank to our lecturer, Mrs. Henny Uswatun Hasana, is the lecturer of ESP course, and then all of my friends. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Rafida Wahid as the moderator, and then let me introduce the presenters. Now we have three presenters. The first presenter is Rian Rita Irfandi. The second presenter is me, Rafida Wahid, and the last presenter is Nuri Elistikoma. So to shorten the time, let me to read the list of our session today. The first session is about opening. The second session is about presentation. The third session is about critique and suggestion. The third session is about question and answer. The fourth session is about critique and suggestion, and the last is about closing. So to shorten the time, let's start our presentation today by reciting Basmalah together. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay, now we move to the next session, that is presentation. For the first presenter, time is yours.
Okay, thank you for moderator. Here I will explain about the definition of methodology. Methodology here refers to the selection and sequencing of learning tasks and activities to achieve the desired instructional objective. So the methodology here in ESP is something which the use of tasks and then activities reflecting to student according to each areas. Like if for medical, so the methodology can use is for medical. And then move to the model lesson 1. The model lesson 1 here is the kinds of model can be used in a lesson in the class. The first model lesson is the materials worksheet. The first worksheet is strip curtain with bubbles blanket out, and then worksheet 2 bubble text. And then here in the model lesson there are tape of conversation and then a paper clip and a needle. The audience here for engineering or general technical student. And then this model to intermediate level. The procedures in this model lesson, the first is hold up the paper clip and the needle. Ask what they are made of. They should get the answer still. The teacher here hold up the paper clip and the needle, and then the students can be answer the question from teachers. And then the second is give the student and ask him to bend them. And the third is ask in what way metals like steel can differ, for example, hard or soft material. And the analysis for the model lesson 1, the first is divide the class into groups. Can be 3 or 4, and then give each group a copy of worksheet 1. And then for the worksheet 2, here the clue or the sentence can to answer the worksheet 1. And then the predictions, is teacher can use the model lesson 1. This way, students should build up enough fact to be able to predict what the dialogue is about. In the image, in the worksheet 1 image, there are there are a bubble which empathy, and then the worksheet 2, this is the sentence to answer the bubble empathy, the empathy bubble. And then for matching, or the teacher can matching the task from student by give out the worksheets to or the bubbles text, and then student put them into to match the blank bubbles. Is possible cut up worksheet 2. Student arrange bubble in order and then play the tape, and the student check their versions or their result.
Okay, that's all from the first presenter. Now we move to the next presenter. That is me, Rafida Wahid, as the second presenter. And I wanna explain for you all about model lesson 2. Model lesson 2, it is audience like business or secretarial students, because English for specific purpose here, based on the purpose what the student or what the audience actually, for example, like in business or engineering or secretarial student. But in the model lesson 2, for example, the audience here is business or secretarial students. It is appear intermediate or advanced level for the students, and there are procedures for do model lesson 2 to teach in the classroom. And then the first procedure is gathering information. From gathering information, there are structures again. The first one is divide the class into groups. Divide students in the classroom to 3 groups. For example, divide into 3 groups, and then the first, the second, and the third group divide by the teacher, and then after the group have already divided by the teacher, and the teacher give a worksheet for each group in the classroom. And the worksheet here like conversation between one people to another people, because the example audience here, we can imagine for business or secretarial students, so it is about business. So the conversation here, it is about business. So after the teacher divide into 3 groups, and then the teacher give worksheet, this is related with the basic student. This is related with the topic like business. So the worksheet is about business. And then after give worksheet, the teacher ask to the student for each group to read clearly the worksheet, and then make notes for what about worksheet, and the note marks here, it is based on the question that have an answer like any people mention, and what do you think they are, and then what is the communication about. So this question will get an answer from the worksheet, and then the student have to read the worksheet clearly and then make notes by the question that have an answer from the worksheet. It is related from each other. And then the teacher go around the class and make sure that they understand. So the teacher not only sit in front of the class, so the teacher go around for each group and then ask for each group. For example, for the teacher go for the first group and then ask, why what's so difficult for you? So ask and make sure that what they understand from the worksheet, and ask to the student what thing that difficult to understand. So the teacher not only sit in front of the class, but the teacher go around for each group, the first, the second, and the third group, and ask to make sure the understanding of the student for each group. And then collect worksheet after the teacher divide group, give a worksheet, and then ask the student to make a note and read clearly about the worksheet, and then go around the class, and then the teacher collect the worksheet after the teacher ask to the student what thing that difficult to understanding. So after all of the worksheet is clear for the student, the teacher will collect the worksheet that the teacher gave before. And then it is not only about gathering information, but it is about sharing information. In sharing information, it is make new group from each group. For example, as a teacher, I divide the student in the classroom into 3 groups, and this is, we can say it, the 3 groups itself by the old group, and I divide again the student from each group into a new group. For example, the first, the second, and the third group, I take one person from each group to make a new group. So it is not only the group before the old group, but it is a new group to check each group has at least one group. So one group I take 1 people. So the second group I take 1 people, and the third group I take 1 people to divide into a new group. And it is not only one people of the group, but I take 1 people from each group to make 3 new groups again, and then give 1 copy of the feedback. And then after I divide into a new group, I give the copy of the feedback. The copy, for example, the worksheet that the student have already clear understand about the worksheet, I give the worksheet feedback worksheet. And then feedback if there is a projector, for example, in the classroom there is a projector, or there is a blackboard, or there is a laptop projector or others to support the teaching learning in the classroom. So the teacher will give a feedback with best feedback, like use projector to show the worksheet or the feedback in front of the class, so all of the groups in the class can see the worksheet that the teacher gave or show in front of the class by the projector. And then discuss any references references version, because before the teacher asked to the student to make note about the worksheet, and then actually there are so many references version from each group. The first group makes a note like this, the second like this, so different. It is any references from each group. So the teacher will discuss with the from each group what version that the from each group make notes, and then follow up. Follow up here is divide student to role plays the conversation. For example, it is a conversation between Mr. Salgado and Maria. Mr. Salgado it is businessman, and Maria it is secretary of Mr. Salgado. And then because there is two people make a conversation, so the teacher divide two role plays from one group, or for each group, from each group to role plays the conversation that the teacher give from the worksheet. For example, the first group take two persons, and then one person asks Mr. Salgado, and then the second asks Maria. It is conversation because it is about speak, so the that it is upper, intermediate, and advanced level. So it is an analysis of the model lesson 2. It is so effective for the teacher to use model lesson 2 in the classroom based on the purpose that the student study English, and then it is so effective because the teacher will practice the English by the conversation that related with, for example, businessmen. So the student will have an interesting to do conversation and get an understanding clearly about the topic, because the topic is related with their ability and their basic. So it is the analysis. And then that's all from me. Now we move to the next or the last presenter, that is Nuri and Istiqomah. Time is yours.
Nanti komputer worksheet.
Okay, I will explain about the model lesson 3. The first is materials. First is materials. There are two materials that is first worksheet. It contains a dialogue, and then second worksheet it's another worksheet from a different dialogue. And then the third is cassette recording. It is an audio recording of the dialogue from the first worksheet. And then the audience is, these teaching materials are intended for students studying hotel and tourism topics at a lower intermediate level. And then the procedure. The first is prediction. Number 1 is play the first line of the dialogue in the first worksheet. And then the second is play the entire dialogue for students to listen and check their prediction. And then the third is address any vocabulary difficulties. And then the last is play the tape once more for reinforcement. The second is reconstruction. Number 1 is divide the class into pairs and give each pair a cut up version of the dialogue, and then their task is to put the dialogue back in right order. And then the second is assist students as they work on reconstruction dialogue. And this is encourage them to figure out the order by looking for repeated word. The third is play the tape again for students to check their answer is that true or false. And then the last is play the tape line by line and have students repeat the lines together. And then the third is practice. Number one is ask students to identify who is speaking in the dialogue. Is this the receptionist or is this the caller? And then the second is in each pair, one student takes the caller's part and then the others take as the receptionist's part. Number three is pairs read the dialogue in front of the class. And then the fourth is conduct role play by having the callers turn over the dialogue part so they can see them and then they repeat the dialogue. And it is the same for the receptionist. And then the fifth is collect the receptionist part. Students must write the receptionist line using the caller's line as cues. And then the last is students role play their new conversation. Okay, for the analysis, there are 10 that I will explain. The first is gaps. If everything is certain and known, there is no need to think. Learning demands thinking, and gaps create that demand. There are many types of gaps. The first one is information gap. The second one is media gaps. The third is reasoning gap. Fourth is memory gaps, jigsaw gaps, opinion gaps, and then the last is certainty gap. The second is variety. It is the spice of learning. In order to get the reception necessary to help learning, there must be variety to keep the mind alert. And then the third is prediction. The prediction is a matter of using an existing knowledge of a pattern or system in order to anticipate what is likely in a novel situation. The fourth is enjoyment. Enjoyment isn't just an added extra. This is a simple of all ways of engaging the learner's mind. The most relevant materials, the most academically respectable theories are as nothing compared to the rich learning environment of an enjoyable experience. And then the fifth is an integrated methodology. Using a range of skills greatly increases the range of activities possible in the classroom. This is make it easier to achieve a high score or high degree or recycling and reinforcement. And then the sixth is coherence. It should be clear where a lesson is going, and each stage you should build on previous stage and lead naturally into the following stages. The seventh is preparation. Lesson preparation is normally interpreted as the teacher planning the stages of the lesson. And then the eighth is involvement. Learners need to be involved both cognitively and emotionally in lesson. The ninth is creativity. Language is dynamic and lessons should reflect this. And the activities should therefore allow for different possible answers and different levels of response. And the last is atmosphere. For all that we might try to analyze and systematize teaching, we must still recognize that effective learning depends heavily on intangible factors such as the relationship between teacher and the student. I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the last presenter. Now we move to the next session, that is question and answer. If you have a question, please write your name and your question on the WhatsApp group, and then your question. So if you have any critique or suggestion for our group, please write in WhatsApp group. And then now we move to the last session, that is closing. So finally we go to the last session. So thank you very much for your attention and your participation. Let's close our presentation today by reciting Alhamdulillah together. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.